Welcome to the Healthy Indoors After Hours Show. This is our inaugural program. Really excited to have you joining us. Um, so we've got people from around the world here. So time-wise, you may be watching us tomorrow morning or this evening. We're coming to you from our studios here in Syracuse, New York, Eastern Standard Time. It's 7 p.m. ish. My co-host, the always interesting and provocative healthy building
You're
scientist
struggling.
from
You're
Hanford
struggling
Store.
already, Bob.
I'm
We
starting
failed.
already. Yeah,
All right,
Joe
Let's
Metosh.
start all over. Do it all over.
All
Just
right, all
start. Do
right.
the
Joe
video
Joe
again.
Joe
Okay.
Metosh. So anyway, thanks for joining us. This is a whole new format for us. This is the premiere episode. So without some interesting technical twists here, but this is a little bit different than some other shows you may have watched, to the extent that we're going for what you would find at the end of the day at an industry conference, walking into the lounge at your hotel with other industry professionals. So you're not going to be a standard interview show. So we're real excited for this format. To that end, I did bring my cocktail. And so Joe, you
Okay.
said you had to
Yeah.
do
Cheers.
something on your intro.
Cheers. Yeah,
Tell-
yeah, yeah.
Cheers.
So, there's a lot of great shows out there that we think are doing well, and they don't talk about indoor air quality. And, there's BS plus beer, and there's Passive House, and all kinds of stuff. And to be blunt, you guys are causing all the indoor air quality stuff. You guys do a great job of the building, but, ventilation is usually an afterthought, or making homes super tight, or doing all kinds of other stuff. And then somebody may mention IAQ, and then a bunch of people respond, "What's that?" And so we wanted to make sure that you knew that we are with you all the time, and we want to find a way to bring this community together in some other way. So we think that there's a way and a great dialogue, some interactions that need to happen for those who are indoor air quality savvy, or want to be, or want to learn more, or find out what's going on, because this is clearly one of the most complicated areas, because it does have to do with building materials, the assembly, how well it's gathered, and what type of principles are behind it. Passive House is a phenomenal solution right now, and heck, they got their own little wars. You would think that it was World War III between the two groups out there, but in general, we are building better homes. And indoor air quality is still kind of on the fringe. Like, yeah, we're kind of doing those things, but they are super durable, super tight. Ventilation is still an add-on, but that's why we want to bring all this together. And it isn't just residential; it's also commercial, and a variety of multifamily that people are discussing every day. So we want to make that something that brings everybody together. So come here on Tuesday, go there on Wednesday, go somewhere else on Thursday, and you'll get a full gamut of really what's going on in the industry.
Okay. Well, I mean,
How about that?
I think that qualifies it for for what we're trying to achieve here. Obviously, we're more than just U.S. centric, though. In fact, we're a global production, as is our magazine. And to that end, with us tonight, in our debut episode, we have two guests joining us live from Singapore, China. We Louis Chang is the founder and president of Pure Living. It's an Asia-based IEQ engineering and solutions provider. And also we have Rafer Wallace, who's the founder of Reset, and a host of other things, which we'll get into when we bring him on camera here. But we're really, and later in the show, we'll be joined by Sean McCumber. He's an IAQ expert slash construction guy. He's been around in the industry. I've known him for about a decade now. He's been in the industry for 15 years. And most recently, he's the construction and facilities manager for the Insurance Institute for Building and Home Safety, the IBHS. So we'll be talking a little bit about construction practices later on in the show. So I guess without further ado, it would be a great time to actually bring in our guests from overseas. So with us this evening are Louis Chang. He's originally from the U.S. Louis founded Pure Living back in 2010 to meet the demand for clean indoor air and water in China. He has over 20 years scientific consulting experience as a chemical warfare engineer for the U.S. Army. He trained with the U.S. CDC, and he has was also the strategic director for Thomson Reuters Scientific Division in Asia. So welcome, Louis. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks, Bob. Thanks for having me.
A little early in the morning there, obviously. So we have a different perspective. Joe and I have cocktails here because it's the end of the day. For you, it's the beginning of the morning. So
Well, yeah, there is a thing called Bloody Mary. So, and that's a breakfast drink. So there are options. So
Yeah, it's still a
Yeah.
work day though, you know. Um, and and last but not least is Rafer Wallace. Rafer Wallace is an architect and founder of the GIGA, and we'll ask you a little bit later to elaborate on that. It's an independent third party combining the development of building standards with cloud technology to increase the accessibility and impact of healthy buildings globally. He's been working at the intersection of healthy buildings and cloud technology, pioneered standards for data quality, which are used internationally and serve as foundations for both Reset and Origin, which is GIGA's two primary areas of focus. And we're going to be talking a little bit more about Reset because that's an international performance standard and certification program for healthy green buildings, which is based on data that's collected and assessed on a daily basis. So this is really, really interesting stuff. So
wait.
well,
So the next time I see you at a real conference, Bob, and I come over and find you at the bar, I'm expecting you to be like, "Oh, here's Joe Medosh. He's been a scientist." Or da-da-da. So that's yeah. There you go. Okay.
You're really going to start with me already. Yes, I will do that. I will introduce that.
That's
Introduce
how
you
you
to other
introduce
people.
all your friends. Like, hey, everybody, here, let me read this off. So, yes, but I want to start with a question because we hear about some of the really awful indoor air quality that's in India and Asia. You know, we see these reports. They're not that common out here, but you see them, and most of us be like, you know what? I need to just stop and go over there and start a company. That's really what I probably should do because we do okay here, but based upon the amount of buildings and people and conditions that are so much worse, we're like, oh, I should go do that. But you both did it. So who wants to go first is to tell us what made you like, you know what, I want to go there and start something really from almost from the ground up.
I see the wheels spinning here. It's to your earlier point, gentlemen. It is morning here. It's coffee versus drinks, and the wheels are spinning up. Maybe I'll start to give Louis a chance. I personally did not sort of wake up one morning and say I'm heading out to Asia to start an air quality company or anything related to that. It was my training as an architect, and I headed out here in order to design and just get a lot of project experience under the belt. But it right at the beginning stumbled across all these air quality issues. And to be honest, the PM particle issue was secondary. It was unknown back then. The short version of a very long story was actually doing project after project and failing them for VOC testing. So really having a hard time controlling chemical off-gassing, getting into monitoring in 2005, real-time monitoring to look for cause and effect on why are we failing. All I was interested 16 years ago was VOC sensors, which, as we know, are notorious. But the monitors we'd brought in at the time had PM10 sensors in them, which I had no idea what it was, I'll be very honest. And it was the readings weren't even there. The readings were, I thought the sensor was broken. And about a week or so into taking the first set of readings, the readings started to appear, and I realized, oh, this sensor is not broken. It's working perfectly fine. It's just off the chart. Pollution's so high, the sensor can't even read it. Got things recalibrated, and then to tenfold, PM10 started to appear on the graph, and that's obviously where the alarm bells went off. Like, what is this? What is this that's kicking things off the chart? So,
what kind of numbers were you hitting? I mean, you're saying that you're hitting really super high numbers. I mean, what type of magnitude?
I mean, translated into PM 2.5 today, it was always hovering between minimum 150 to 350.
That's pretty high.
So stumbled into the air quality field 15, 16 years ago. Did not come running into it.
Wow.
So, Louis, I guess we've given you a chance to actually consider your answer there. What got you there, and why?
Well, I mean, similar to Rafer, I didn't come to Asia looking for this. I came similar to Rafer. I was an overseas expatriate, and but I had a little different background. I'd been with the military, and I've been a nuclear, biological, and chemical officer with Army before. So we had kind of had some experience in measuring and protecting, defending, filtering against these pollution that would. But the difference was that would, what would kill us right away here was sort of a gradual, just part of everyday life. So maybe about 12 years ago, there was a gap in the market. Whereas in North America and the U.S., you can open the phone book and find and go to IAQ, go to mold. There was nobody like that in China. So you had your test labs, and you could go there, and they would just say, "Okay, I'm going to test the government air quality test. Doesn't matter what you're smelling, what you're feeling. That's all I'm going to test for you, unless you tell me something else." And then you would get your 1 page of just numbers. So it's like taking a blood test. So I said there's probably something in here to fill the gap on trying to be kind of somebody who can be a consultant. And that's how we started with homes, and then very quickly those same homes said, "Hey, I'm the CFO for IBM. Can you help me at my office?" So we moved into offices and schools pretty quickly, and that's, like Rafer says, that was back when there was very little awareness. But China's always had a very high a challenging outdoor PM issue. So at the same time, a lot of buildings, that's where Rafer comes in, is a really high rate of every couple of years, people's offices they're growing, they're moving into a new office. So you've got challenges from the outdoors, you can't open your windows. Challenges from indoors, you've got a lot of VOCs. What do you do? And that's kind of the unique, I think, China challenge. And now, as China's outdoor is getting better, we're seeing new sort of challenges with sustainability, energy. So it's really interesting right now. You're seeing the intersection of sustainability and how do we be energy efficient with keeping health at the forefront.
I mean, one of the things that I see that differs vastly from North America. One of our prescribed, classic prescribed measures is, ventilate more, get more outside air, get more fresh air. But that doesn't work so well when you have outdoor environments where the outdoor contaminant levels are pretty high, right? High particulate level. You can't just bring in more air unless you treat it. So that's a challenge. Has that always been the case?
Yeah, it was a huge conundrum for the first few years. I don't know how many discussions Lou and I had about this over starting, I guess, 10 years ago, trying to figure out how to create that balance, get the initial numbers, because to your point, they're opposing metrics. But it led to some really interesting discoveries, I guess, for lack of a better word, in terms of ultimate to achieve the types of filtration that we needed. We needed to move away from this idea of central filtration and get into zonal filtration to be able to bring in outdoor air, filter to the extent we needed locally. We really need to rethink how ventilation and filtration was done over the span of several years and figure it out. Same challenge that people have found with COVID, just several years earlier and less in a sort of panic mode. But now the shifts, we've learned that the high performance spaces are really have taken all the lessons from this. Are decentralized filtration, sort of adaptive ventilation, and so on. So it's definitely a journey to get there.
Elaborate a little bit about the adaptive ventilation. I'm curious, how is that something different than the approach that would be typically done?
Well, it's just multi-parameter. I mean, back then, there's a few people who have DCVs, right, demand control ventilation, right? But in most cases, as we know, they're off. At least that was the case with COVID. So in the few buildings that there was DCV, again, in most cases they were off for obvious reasons. They're all running on CO2, single metric, and PM was the the problem happening on the other side of things. So how do you start guiding a system towards multi-metric? So feeding it both CO2 and PM data. And then, of course, realizing, well, we need to decouple filtration from ventilation. And these two things have to be completely separate so we can deal with them separately and move to hyperzonal and eventually strike a balance. So Louis is the world expert at this, at figuring out, okay, where do we need mixed mode zonal, where we're bringing in ventilation, very zonal and recirculated, versus where do we just need to strip out the excess loads. And again, all of this, is to your point, was all solid particle related. And just over the past year and a half or year, that's really just converted to liquid particle related. But just developing a much more intelligent, or what's more, refined approach to how we deal with air indoors. And that was really just a byproduct of actually measuring this stuff. It was really, really clear that virtually nobody had been measuring long term. And once you do, you realize, to be honest, how buildings don't work. Buildings just, they don't work. They're not designed for humans on a long time basis when you actually measure the data. And this was like getting hit by a truck.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really, that's a scary revelation, isn't it?
It was terrifying. I mean,
we knew it. You just finally pointed it out. I mean,
yeah, you're actually exposing the elephant in the room here. But that's.
Well, it was as I said, I'm originally, I come from a pure and applied science background, and then architecture, and I often joke that my life was hijacked by chemicals, dust, and other things. Because as an architect, when you're trying to design buildings and you're realizing the mechanical systems don't even work, I've got bigger issues to address here. It's a bit of a drag.
So let's talk a little bit more about the global concept. In that is that, you guys have some of the same stuff we do. You've got mold in and outside of walls. I know you have other exposures between either asbestos or lead, and just an adoption of all things we just went through with COVID. Can you kind of describe what's the difference between maybe the U.S. mentality or market compared to what you guys are into regularly now? Like, a lot of buildings are still reluctant to address ventilation issues. It's all like, well, we were fine before, we're all going to go back to our normals issues. So between just mechanicals, there's also other stuff that are heavily regulated in some areas. Do you guys have those challenges with the governments or local municipalities or local challenges?
So I'll jump in on this one. Just in terms of mindset towards at least, let's say, building owners. I think over the years, so PM 2.5 and outdoor air pollution kind of really exploded into awareness, I would say around 2014 or so. So there's been 7 years, including COVID, of awareness about a pollution of some type. And if we look at what Rafer was just saying, is the best thing about continuous monitoring really is that it makes you aware. If you go into work, you get in you're at the lobby checking in, and you see a big screen that shows the air quality outside and inside, and then you go into the elevator, and in the elevator it says what the CO2 and what the PM levels are. You're like, what is that? You're a little bit more aware of it. And then it drives everything. It drives the feedback loop of what do? Do you actually change the filters like you're supposed to? So I think the willingness and the awareness and the market actually forcing you to have some kind of air quality. Like if you're a school, schools are our largest segment. You cannot open a new school and not have a air quality system and be able to talk about it. And you have to have some monitoring. So whereas maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago, you might be able to get away with just saying, hey, I've got an air quality system and it's a few portables. You can't get away with that now because there's also an expectation. Okay, parents will say, where's your monitoring system? Who's certified your air? And then you just have a higher level of bottoms up And that's what I think was interesting about China is it wasn't from the government saying you need to have better air. Your air needs to be a certain IAQ level. Your PM cannot exceed a certain amount. There actually is no indoor PM level right now for China. There's nothing that's
Not a
been
standard.
implemented. There's LEED, there's WELL, there's Reset that RAFER represents, but all of that has been ground driven by employees, by guests, by tenants. So it starts with individuals. I don't know if we'll see that in North America and places outside of China.
You see and that's an interesting point. We're not even close to being there yet.
No, but we do where there's wildfires. So that's the only exception we have is when you have wildfires, people are like, hey, you know what? This is a problem. I can't go to work and I can't live in my house. So they want to know, what can I do? But you're right. It's
in general,
right.
You know, we're sadly lacking here in this country. And my fear is that as soon as any threat of a pandemic dissipates a little bit, we'll go right back to business as usual. And I think that would be tragic, to say the least. But
the other side of what we're talking about with monitoring, that is something that is coming to fruition with builders, residential, much more commercial are including these concepts. So we may just drip the opposite way. It may be like, well, I have this at work. I can see what's going on in my office, or where I spend the other half of my time, and they then decide they need to add this to their home. But most people think their home is fine, but there are more and more people who want to know. More and more builders want to get in line with this as to what's going on. We're just now really kind of installing ventilation systems. An exhaust fan is not a ventilation system; it's an exhaust fan. So, I do talk regularly with more builders who want to know, how can I monitor what's happening in their house? And just Rafer, I actually talk about Reset as the standard, because it's the only thing we have right now, because it is something that says your monitor is it's certified, and then you have some guidance as to what you're getting the readings are. So without those two things, you're just saying, I got this thing and it tells me some stuff. I don't really know how accurate it is or what I should do with the numbers that they think I should do with that. So I think you will have some competition soon, because people realize that we're just making stuff up. Trend indicators is what I kind of call them. So.
Well, for the some of the viewers probably who are not familiar. Some of the viewers are probably not familiar with Reset too, Rafer. So give us at least an overview on what that whole standard means and how it's being applied.
So there's two sides. You guys are a competitor for WELL, and then you also verify the devices. Why don't you talk about what it is you do comparable to WELL, the WELL building standard? Yeah.
Sure. Just gonna. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we got you now.
Yeah.
All right. There's a bit of a across the ocean glitch there, I guess. But yes, so just to be a bit of a nerd for a moment, when we got into air quality monitoring in 2005, this is familiar territory for both of you. We were finding monitors that were selling for $50 and others that were selling for $50,000 that had the same specification. So on paper, it's the same device. And as a specifier, this made absolutely no sense, of course. So we started lining them up, working a lot with Louis on this as well, and just comparing and figuring out what's the difference. And we found that before we could even have a conversation about, is this space healthy? That's also a loaded comment. We first needed to figure out, well, is this data any good? What's the data quality, or is this garbage? Are we fooling ourselves? And for the most part, it was garbage. So I think one of the core fundamental differences between Resets and LEED and WELL is that at the root of it, Reset's a data standard. It's a standard for data quality. And we apply that to different types of sensors, different types of parameters, and have a layered approach where it's what's the level of quality of accuracy of the monitor, how's the data being processed in the software, what's the density of monitors, so we can actually compare buildings to buildings, apples to apples. So at the core, really focus on data quality first, and then let's have a conversation about healthy buildings. So we're definitely the only ones in the world to have taken that approach. And I think it's a very nerd one, but it's a critical one as buildings go into digitization. Nobody has questions or conversations about what is the fundamental data quality like. So without that, it's all moot. And then beyond that, it's really focusing on the metrics that come out of that. So we've developed an expertise over the years to look at, for example, scientific research and pull out the lab research and pull out the variables that affect human health, virus survivability, things like this, one by one. See if we can isolate them and then match them, map them to sensor data, and look at the correlation. So if I have a lab result and I move that into the sensor world, is it a one-to-one conversation? So we don't really see Reset as competition to Lead and Well. Lead and Well are very good systems. They're very horizontal. They cover everything. Reset is vertical. It's very focused on very discrete subjects, and we go deep. So probably the best projects are when they get T-shaped. Joe, you had a comment earlier about Passive House. We do a lot of projects in the US that are Passive House. I say we, I don't mean we. I mean the Reset APs. Some of the best projects are a combination of Passive House and Reset. That's a really good example of a good T-shaped intersection where Passive House does an amazing job on energy and everything, and then Reset just gets plugged in to handle the air quality piece.
That's a good way to describe it. Passive is a phenomenal way to build. A lot of times they are a little complacent on ventilation because they're so tight, and they're trying not to cause issues internally, even though the kitchen hood really needs to go outside. That's not really an option. And but if they were to monitor it, they would see that the things that people are cooking show up in the bedroom, no matter how far away that bedroom is. And when they see that, like you talk about, if you monitor, now the invisible suddenly shows up, and you're like, wow, why do I have high particulates where I'm sleeping? It's because somebody cooked dinner, an hour ago. If they saw that, they would then be adamant that we must have some kind of ventilation in the kitchen. So when you can cross those, you can see those. But I will say that Lead and Well does require you to come back and recertify multiple times. To my knowledge, Lead is not out of that. So once you're done with Lead, you're done with Lead. So if you're not monitoring like you're doing, or have some reason to check the building 3 to 5 years later, it's only going to struggle in the future when you really wanted it to do well.
Yeah, Joe, but one of the things that I come across talking with IAQ consultants. I think last year was the first year that I didn't get to come and do a seminar at IAQA on monitoring. But a lot of times when I would give those seminars, I'd be talking with somebody who's been doing IAQ for longer than I have, 20 years. And they would say, I don't understand. Why can I just not use the lab, and I'll use my, trusty TSI, multi-track and get my CO2 readings? Isn't that fine? One, I would say, number one, you're taking a spot in time. And if you look at one single graph of what CO2 or PM looks like over the course of a day, it's doing this. So what is the value of you picking? Are you picking at the peak? Did you happen to measure at the peak? Did you take at the bottom? We very much see, I know with schools, I'll always see your PM peaks at about 8 a.m. and about 3 p.m., which is when kids are getting in and out. All the building envelope opens. And then CO2 levels we tend to see in an office all kind of peak in your later hours. You're kind of 3 to 4 p.m. But during the rest of the day, it's all over the place, and it looks very different for every single space. So I think the value is really in being able to give up I find a lot of the monitors discussions also around, well, my sensor is plus or minus 3%. Your sensor is plus or minus 5%. So my sensor is better than yours, or I can't accept a plus or minus 5%. The reality is the value of monitoring is looking at that that trend over time and being able to relate it to what's going on. Like Joe said, is somebody cooking? What's happening at 2 p.m. every Tuesday and Wednesday?
Mhm.
Is that when the cleaners are coming? Is that when,
Right.
we can look at the numbers and we can see my building management is actually, I will sometimes tell a tenant, your building manager is cheating you, because I can see they're turning off the fresh air. They tell you they're turning it off at 7 p.m., but you can see they're
Right.
turning it off at 6. There's a lot more that we can see due to this a trend that's not a single point in time. That's the biggest difference I see between well lead, so where these are doing very, very accurate speciation of VOCs. They're missing the bigger
They're snapshots.
picture.
They're just doing a snapshot.
Right.
At the time, you are perfect, but maybe not even 3 or 4 years later, or 3 times a year. I think, Joe, you mentioned, even tomorrow, is that error going to be the same?
Right.
So the value of having that, even if you don't have the perfect hardware, I think is just important to look at.
I mean, that's what, Louis, that's one of the problems with the IAQ industry in general. Most of what, the field assessment work that's been done traditionally, right, is mostly snapshot, single point snapshot, and all these, rampant conclusions are drawn from these small data sets. Like look at microbial sampling, mold sampling. Come on, you pull a couple of spore traps in a building and you're making characterizations. What's in there?
Right.
That's ridiculous. That's a characterization of what's 2 cubic feet in front of the sampling device. That's all that is.
Yeah. Yeah. The analogy I often give is you have a security system for your building and you're taking a picture every 6 months. Really? No, I'm sorry. I'd rather have a slightly lower resolution and 24/7 here. I don't want a picture of my building. And the counter is like, does air quality change that much? And this was a hard conversation to have before COVID, right? Now people are starting to realize, yeah, air quality changes in 5 minutes, in 3 minutes. Put a bunch of people in, like, people had no conception of just how dynamic that air quality was. Maybe the snippet that I'll add there is, I find in Asia it's been a process like anything. In North America is now just, and Europe is entering that process. We don't even know how to have a conversation about air quality as an industry, and as the experts, we're supposed to be leading that conversation. So when the folks at the top don't even know how to have the conversation, that's an issue. And what I mean by that is that, to Louis' point of perfection, we've I'm going to go on a slight tangent. We're now in a world where we're a little bit more honest, right? It's like,
are we?
Well, in the sense that this is my background, right? I'm not in the office. It's not a corporate setting, right? That was not okay before.
Your dog can be barking in the background. Your children can be running through. Okay.
Like,
all right.
Life happens, right?
Yeah. Look at what's behind you. You got pictures from your kids. That's kind of
which is fantastic.
Yeah,
that's right.
Joe has pictures from his family.
Yeah.
No comments.
This is where I live. I'm at home too.
Joe
right
lives
now.
in a bar.
Lives in a bar. Right.
A lot of people would envy you there, Joe. But air quality, when people step into it, they think that you need to be perfect at all times, and of course that doesn't happen. And so this was one of the early lessons on Reset and how we look at data, is that it's okay to fail. It's okay to go out of boundaries every now and then, right? It's just when you go out of boundary, how long are you out of boundary for, and to what extent. So a lot of the fear around monitoring in the US is what happens when my data looks bad. And the question is, well, how bad is bad and how long is it looking bad for? And so just having those more advanced conversations on example under Reset, if you hit a spike, you don't fail. You have to hit a spike and maintain that spike for a long time to then fail, right? You need to be able to take corrective action. And Like there's just learning to understand the data and look at the data and make sense of it is a whole new topic.
Well, the United States is so litigious, though, Rafer. I mean, like, again, talking with this country, a data spike will be some reason for some personal injury attorney to start an action against some employer, which, right or wrong, it's crazy. People don't understand, and that's a big thing here. It's like you mentioned that there's been like at least somewhat of a paradigm shift, right? At least among consumers, people in their workplaces and stuff, they're more conscious of indoor environments, and I think that's true because of the SARS-CoV-2 exposures. But has anybody, in general, has the general public learned very much? Do you think?
Ooh,
that's a tough one, right? Because I mean, has anybody really had a lesson from this?
Yeah, but I don't know if we know yet. I mean, let's 6 months from now we'll see if when people are still going back to having huge parties and we no longer don't care about how close we are and how many people are in a room that has awful ventilation, and we now can tell because it feels stale. We'll see if people speak up about that. I don't.
Yeah, but simultaneously we have India experiencing just horrific mortality rates and infection rates right now. So this pandemic globally is far from over.
It is, and I mean the level of awareness has obviously shot up. The average person now knows about particles and can walk around with a CO2 monitor and try to get. So I mean the level of education has gone way up. No question about it. The question is more how long does it stay around for? To your point, right? Do people forget? Just again, lessons from the past 15 years in this field is that people are people, and we go back to whatever's familiar and whatever's easy. And the only time, so what changes is not the people, is the infrastructure always, right? We like to think that people advance. Well, I argue we don't really. It's the infrastructure around us that advances. And for infrastructure to advance, a problem needs to last long enough. A pain point needs to last long enough. And I think that's more the question in my mind. Has this pain point lasted long enough to cause an infrastructure change, an industry change in how we approach mechanical systems and ventilation and monitoring? And I think the answer is yes. Mm-hmm. So people will go back to just worrying about whether they're what's burning in the oven and what beer I'm going to have tonight. Of course, it's
human nature.
How much of the infrastructure has had time to change around it, and I think that shift has happened.
So I want to shift us completely from the concept of what we're breathing to what we're drinking, and the fact that Lou, you were a chemical warfare engineer, that just I probably could, if we were standing at a regular bar after, I would want to know more and more about that. But can you elaborate on the fact that water quality isn't even something that's mentioned in our industry very much at all? We are the air people, but the reality is we are what people are exposed to. So can you talk about why are we not really focused on water yet, or why is water not hit the level of concern that it should be?
I mean, I don't think that water is not important, or people don't think that water is important. I think people just tend to focus on what's in front of them. If they have water quality readings in front of them all the time, if they have water quality popping up in the newspaper all the time, I would say probably in the US, for instance, I'd seen enough headlines talking about different water quality scandals or municipalities where they register high lead, for instance. There's actually a higher, I'd say, cultural awareness of that in the US than there was in China. But in China, I remember a few years ago, suddenly somewhere downstream, pig farmers for some reason were having sick pigs and they were dying, and they were just unloading the carcasses into the river. And so suddenly reports 800 pig carcasses floating down the river, and everybody freaked out about their water. So I think it comes back to the people worrying, and then the numbers. And we actually just helped with the project. UFC, the mixed martial arts company, has a UFC in China, and these flagship gyms actually decided to do to implement Reset. So we helped them implement Reset, but not just for air, which we've done lots of projects for, but they did Reset Water, Reset Energy. So all of those, they were looking at their numbers, they were measuring their numbers in a right way with the right protocol at the right places, the right hardware, and they were doing water as well. So I think people who are going in and out of that facility, certainly the facility managers, are going to be more aware of their water quality, of the amount of water that's being used. So if you wanted to see more awareness, I guess it would come back to the same continuous monitoring, whether it's air, water, energy, materials. The numbers have to be there, and then they'll slowly will percolate into people's awareness.
You in a previous conversation, Louis, you and I discussed how in China and Asia in general, or many parts of Asia, this pandemic really it evolved differently, right? And as far as the public concern and really as far as the actual impact was different. Whereas New York became the epicenter kind of early in the pandemic, and so we had a very a high exposure and just politically as well as just in the news. I mean, everybody was bombarded with this in the United States and certainly in my state, but a little different there, right? I mean, as far as the perspective, there wasn't the high concern, right? Was there in China?
I think the concern was there. The way that was, and this is not the right venue, I think, to get into how the clash of the civilizations. How does a democracy handle COVID controls?
Yeah, and that wasn't my intent. I wasn't viewing it that way. I was just saying, just in general, there were different. I mean, the parameters were different. You dealt with different parameters.
A little bit. You mean in terms of the what people, what average sort of people and building managers were doing about it? Was that the question?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that was my impression. Am I incorrect there?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, Louis and I spoke about this at length too, where in the early days of the pandemic in China, everybody had great plans. It was we were going to kick up the entire industry another notch, just like we did in 2013, 2014 after the first airpocalypse. So everyone had big plans to continue raising the level of buildings, which it needs to do. But because the government was so efficient at lockdown, and the virus basically disappeared overnight, and life was back to normal almost instantly by comparison, all those plans got thrown into the garbage. So it was a really good example of the problem didn't last long enough for the infrastructure to change, right? So very, very classic example of what I was saying earlier. Whereas in New York, this hurts. This is lasting long enough for it to change. And I think this is where now, for example, if I just use one topic that we've been working on, the viral risk index or the viral index, getting a sense of what's the risk of transmission, or to be actually more precise, what is the level of building optimization? Like, to be able to track that in real time, I don't see how anyone could enter a building, especially in North America, in the near future without a sense of data. And wait a minute, what am I walking into? Because this has hurt for a very long time. It's hurt for a year and a half, and I don't want that to happen again. So I think that's where the long-term response in North America is actually probably going to kick things up a notch over Asia, where there's going to be more of a sensitivity to walk into a monitor, walk into a space with a monitor and say, look, I'm just going to take the readings myself. I want to know how optimized this building is. And if the building's not giving me the data, I'll get it myself, which is what Asia did solely on PM. In North America, people are going to be doing it for viral transmission, for immune system impact. They're just going to be walking in with a monitor because we can give them that data. And why would I not? Who's going to be walking into a building completely blind? I think that's the That's the kick, the extra kick in North America, just because the problems lasted that much longer.
I want to touch on data because we're all acknowledging that data is super valuable. The monitoring is also the missing link, which creates the data. But Joseph Allen became an overnight success. He was doing well, but once COVID hit, he was the man to talk about because he had healthy buildings and multiple other articles that are showing that if you were making investments in your properties, if you were doing a great job of ventilation and keeping particulates down, that you could actually track reduction in your healthcare costs or people off work or missing days like that, and productivity could go up. Do you guys see that there is this now that we have the data in our buildings and management can start to look at what's going on in human resources, that it could be this connectivity between, now I understand when, two people show up with the flu, that 3 weeks later, many of the people in our office building may end up with a cold or have a flu. Do you think that we're headed towards this, you can call it big data, or we're finally able to connect the dots that, our buildings are able to make us sick or not keep us well when they're not well maintained?
Let me.
Yeah.
I'm just going to grab this one because Joe, I mentioned I need to jump off.
Oh, sure.
In just a second. But Joe, it's a good question about data, and if the question is around, is there the awareness of ROIs or the awareness of we should have healthier buildings because it makes it makes business sense? That's the theory. And I say WELL has gotten tremendous traction here because of that. But when I go and have discussions, I don't hear somebody boil it down to that. It still comes to they're doing it maybe for a market reason. They're building, it becomes part of their marketability, becomes part of their story to get more students in if they're a school. But I don't quite sort of see it actually happening as much as a conscious decision. And I don't see a lot of portfolio benchmarking as much as I think we would like to see them once you have the data. But I think it also has a lot to do with at what level you're speaking to, whether it's an FM or whether it's somebody who's a chief sustainability officer or a wellness officer, for instance. So I'm going to leave it back to you guys. Bob, Joe, thank you very much.
Hey, thanks for joining us. You can stop in anytime. We're going to be doing this once a month, so this is less frequent. So enjoy your day. It's Wednesday where you are, or both of you are.
Thanks for what you're doing with the industry. When I read over what you're doing, I'm like, how have I not connected with you before? So thank you.
Love to stay in touch. Thanks, guys.
All right, we'll speak soon. So there's some interesting aspects. I think how
Joe, I will answer your question.
Oh, okay.
Good, because I'm like, Bob's going to dominate.
Oh, Bob's going to start again. All right.
Okay.
Okay, Rafer, go ahead.
No, it's due to the lag, Bob. If you don't mind, I'm just going to pause just for a small moment because the line seems to be lagging for a few seconds. There we go. Looks like we're back. But Joe, I'm going to answer your question a little indirectly. North America, I'm going to pop the bubble on proxy data and evidence-based. Right now, in the West, for a long time, when we're buying bubble gum or Coke, we use sugar-free, right? And that's a bit of a marketing gimmick, obviously, because, well, what's replacing the sugar? That's what I really want to know. I don't care if it's sugar-free. And we do the same thing in the healthy building space where we say evidence-based. Evidence-based is another way of saying I don't have data, so I'm borrowing somebody else's data. And we need to pop that bubble. And really, the healthy building experts in North America are way too comfortable with that sentence. It just gets buttered onto absolutely everything because somebody did something in a lab somewhere, and I can extrapolate from that onto my project. We both know the real world doesn't work that way. There's so many variables going on in a building. It's evidence-based is to be honest, we need to pop that bubble because evidence-based is basically saying, I don't have data. I'm using somebody else's data and it might work or it might not work. So why not just get the data when it's so highly available? And that's the issue on a lot of these research pieces that I'm seeing, where there is this research that, to be honest, the conversation about ventilation a year ago was driving me absolutely bonkers.
Why so?
Because it's the wrong approach. Just ventilate 100% full. Like, no, put in some sensors, get the data, and ventilate based on what you need. You know, we're still seeing buildings that are ventilating 6 air changes an hour, and there's 3 people in the building. And why are you doing that? We can be smarter than that. We have the data. A bit of a side note there, but I think, to your point, Joe, there is the opportunity to break the barriers down between the data silos and start correlating HR data with air quality and looking at sick leaves. And we've definitely seen a massive drop in seasonal flu. Just barely, it hasn't existed this past year as a byproduct of people wearing masks and so on. So we're seeing that correlation. Productivity is a much tougher one. But we're not going to get there until people drop the idea of evidence-based, because that's garbage, and start talking about, no, I want data for my project, because it's not that expensive. And
right, we have the technology now. I mean, 20 years ago, it was difficult to do this. It's not. There's plenty of readily available technology to monitor continuously.
Exactly. Yeah,
well,
exactly.
the thing that's happening now is that sensors are becoming better. They are becoming a little more affordable, and they're becoming something that I don't need to have one on the wall per floor. I could have one in a desk area, or in at least every room, or so many places are going to now have multiple monitors that provide, good enough data that I can determine what's happening in multiple areas on each floor throughout the building. So I think we're headed towards this really over data as a concept, but the reality is that's where you figure stuff out. You figure out that so and so had a cold, or certain things happened, or why is that one room always have high carbon dioxide? Well, guess what? It has no makeup air. So let's figure out what are the mechanical issues that are causing these things. But you never would have known it if you didn't put a sensor in that room. So I think we're going to get to this level of like, okay, it's okay to monitor lots of places, and people may buy these things and just put them on their own desk to figure out what's going on. That's the next trend that we see happening for some people.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, these are definitely interesting times, and I think we absolutely have to, as an industry, globally, really run with this, because this is an opportunity. I said this, Joe and I have been doing shows for over a year and some months now. And I said this at the onset of the pandemic. It's like the real tragedy would be is if we don't learn anything from this horrible once in 100-year, hopefully, experience, which is probably going to be more frequent experience too. But the reality is like we do need to move things forward and in some sort of permanency to that. Does that make sense? I mean, I just would just feel really bad if we slip right back into doing things as it was done.
Yeah, I'm going to push that even further. I think this past year has been a Galileo moment, where there's a few people in the community that know viruses are airborne and have known for 20 years. And I'd like to push it to an extreme and say, to be honest, this past year, we haven't learned anything. It's just been mass awareness of what a few people have known for a long, long time. And as an example, you're both into particle monitoring, and for the past 20 years, the conversation has been the liquid droplets floating in the air are the problem. How do we dry the air coming in so we can measure the solid particles, right? So we've known that the liquid particles are there, they're floating, and we try to reduce the noise and strip out what we're reading pre and post drying to get a sense of how much liquid particles are in the air and how much are solid. So the awareness of liquid particles floating around have been around since for 20 years, because it's been a problem in how we get to the solid particles. And now, of course, the whole area of focus has shifted, and we know that viruses stay airborne for hours. And
sure.
We've known that for 10 years.
Once it's desiccated, it very fine particles. They They can almost indefinitely suspend.
There's nothing new about this. Like, we haven't learned anything. It's just been mass awareness to what's been out there for 10, 15 years in very nerdy circles, sitting around
we have better illustrations though. We have much better illustrations that show what comes out of us and how far
right.
it can.
We have better illustrations.
Little graphics make, when you see the cough in the airplane, it seems a little bit more scary. But yeah, I saw a quote the other day, and I can't attribute it to the person who made the quote. It was from a long time ago, but the quote was, "History has taught us that we do not learn from history." It's and I think it's there's some truth to that.
Yeah, no, there definitely is. The Galileo moment was really just, now there's mass awareness that the planet moves around the sun, not the other way around. Thank you to COVID for doing that, and the nice little graphics that have come out of it. But when you look sum total, scientifically, we haven't learned that much in the past year. The real wins on how we deal with this mechanically, infrastructure, and why those are yet to come.
Yeah, I mean that's the real measure of how we move forward and what actionable improvements we make, right? I mean, it's like this is everything. So it's the opportunities here. What you're doing with Reset, what that program's doing is phenomenal. I just that's amazing. And hopefully that gets more broadly adopted and becomes really commonplace. I mean, it's certainly in the marketplace everywhere, but we definitely need more data driven information so that we can make real decisions. What a thought. What a concept. It sounds so much like science,
UL is going to get into your space soon, so let's follow up. I'll tell you about UL's coming up with some standards that other people can kind of get in. I think you should be ahead of that curve. So the one thing we did not get to talk about were what you also have done is about picking materials that are low VOCs or not nasty is the only way to kind of describe that. So let's figure out another time we can talk about the real challenges with VOCs and trying to find materials that individually or collectively are not causing people to basically get sick in their home. That's one of the main real causes of sick buildings.
Well, we certainly only covered a fraction of what we wanted to cover with you and Louis, Rafer. So this discussion must continue at a future date. Because it was enlightening. We greatly appreciate you both taking the time, in the next day to come back to our day, back in time, and meet us here, in North America, for the show. So we'll see you in we'll keep tabs on what's going on. We certainly want to hear more about what's going on in your world and what you're up to.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is fun.
Thanks so very much for joining us.
What you're doing, right? Keep it up.
We're gonna take a short break, just a very short break, and we'll bring in our next guest. Up on deck is Sean McCumber. He's the Construction and Facilities Manager for the Insurance Institute for Building and Home Safety, the IBHS. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hi, I'm Bob Krell, founder and publisher of Healthy Indoors magazine and host of the Healthy Indoors Show. Healthy Indoors is the world's resource for credible, timely information on indoor environmental, building performance, and sustainability topics. We are a global multimedia company offering content and networking websites, publications, videos, podcasts, and online events. We are launching our new Healthy Indoors Global Community, a revolutionary online networking and information platform aimed at linking the industry worldwide. Our goal for this virtual community is to provide a central hub where industry professionals, researchers, suppliers, and other interested parties from around the globe can connect with each other to network, share, and learn. It will offer a host of engagement features for our community participants. It will also include a variety of multimedia content from Healthy Indoors publications, online shows and events, along with offerings from other trusted content creators and organizations. During our initial launch period through May 1st, 2021, you can join the new Healthy Indoors Global community free of charge as one of our inaugural participants at the pro level. Worried about junk email? Rest assured, we hate spam as much as you do. That's why when you sign up for a free subscription to either of our magazines or join our new online global community, we promise to keep your information safe. Healthy Indoors will never sell, rent, or share your data with anyone, ever. 2020 has brought the quality of our indoor environments to the forefront of public concern. Now is the time to harness this momentum, to network, share, and learn along with other industry professionals from around the globe. I would like to take this opportunity to personally invite you to join us on the new Healthy Indoors online global community. I'm looking forward to seeing you there. All right, we are back with the Healthy Indoors After Hours show. And joining us from somewhere in North Carolina, I still can't remember the name of the city that you moved to, buddy, is Sean McCumber. He's the Construction and Facilities Manager for the IBHS. And let me make you be uncomfortable and read a snippet of your history. So Sean's a licensed builder with 15 years of IQ consulting experience specializing in water intrusion, Chinese drywall, and restoration. Sean has recently joined the Insurance Institute for Building and Home Safety as the Construction and Facilities Manager at their research center in Richburg, South Carolina. Is that correct?
Yes.
So I said North Carolina again, didn't I?
Well, it's a suburb of Charlotte, North Carolina.
Oh, so it's really close to the border.
Really
this is
close.
what confuses me because you mentioned, okay, so this is my excuse, because you mentioned that your new position was in South Carolina, and I assumed you lived in South Carolina, and then you said you're looking for houses in North Carolina.
Yeah.
I guess I need to look at the freaking map. Okay.
It's right. Charlotte's like it's like a DC scenario where you've got Maryland on one side, Virginia on the other.
Oh, I can put that together. Well, anyway, the research center centers around a large wind chamber with 105, 15. No, what is that? 6 foot diameter fans. Like basically, you guys can create the movie Twister in real life.
Absolutely.
That's freaking crazy, dude.
Not only that is, hey Joe,
How you doing, man?
doing good. In fact, when I was moving, I found one of your little blocks of wood telling me the size of samples to send over to you some stuff, and I was just thinking about you.
Okay.
But so it's actually really cool because part of it, I work at the research center, and we build large, full-scale mock-ups of buildings and homes and houses. I mean, we can build a 2,000 square foot house, put it on our turntable inside of the wind chamber, and subject it to 120, 130 mile an hour winds. But even more interesting than that is we can control the speeds, we can get gusts, and we can control each bank of fans separately. And there are airfoils that exist in front of them, so we can create turbulence. And then just as if that's not enough fun, we can also spray water, hail, or embers to replicate, hailstorms, wind-driven rain, or wildfires inside the structure on full-scale size homes and buildings. So it's a one-of-a-kind facility. There's nothing else like it in the world, and I am thrilled to be a part of it. It's really cool.
Yeah, that sound was the sound of me knocking things over in the studio.
That's
it happens. It's a live show.
Hey, it's just like After Hours, right?
It kind of is. Well, I was in all honesty, I was reaching for a beer.
Hey, it's fair.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, he's lying. He's lying.
I'm not lying.
But
I'll demonstrate it in a second.
So let's dig in because your time is tight. So let's talk about resiliency just briefly, because I'm sure that was part of why this facility was pushed to another limit. That how do we prevent people's homes from just leaving their freaking foundation or roofs flying off? But there's other things that are so valuable, like that our buildings are not water tight. That high driven you're going to get a lot of water in the walls that you don't even know about until
right.
Yeah, that's right. And you have no drying capacity, so we haven't even realized the secondary benefits that this facility probably is providing. Yeah.
It's phenomenal. In fact, a research was just presented to me. We're just beginning some additional research on the wind-driven rain component, and not just wind-driven rain in hurricanes, but wind-driven rain in moderate wind speeds as well. And that gets to what you're talking about with the IAQ component of trapped water inside of the wall assemblies, in undiscovered water. And of course, in a hurricane where you have a catastrophic failure, it's clear. I got involved with IAQ through Hurricane Katrina. And I remember I went and took a 2-day course on how to be a mold inspector, and
that made you an expert. Clearly,
I was an expert. I was
no
ready
question.
to go, man.
There's so many of them.
Like, here's my plaque with my thing, and every house I went into had been decimated by a class 3 hurricane. So I was like, I can identify the water source. I can see inside all the walls. The solution was easy. Here's your certificate. Everything's fine. And I never forget the time I got called out on a legitimate water intrusion mold problem. And
not catastrophic, where they literally didn't blow everything apart in the building where you could see everything.
Exactly.
Right.
That's
a bitch to work on.
And I was like, oh my God, I am in trouble. And oddly enough, that's when I sought out and became a member of the IAQA, which would have been maybe 15 years ago, 15 years ago. Around that time, and met you, Bob, and Joe I met later, I think. But that's exactly right. I mean, in a catastrophic situation, you have the symptoms, the cause, the symptoms, they're all really clear, but it's these in between.
Well, the water source when there's a hurricane, right. The damn water source. You don't have to go look for that.
Absolutely. So it's a whole different situation. But I'd like to just touch on something which I thought was interesting from some of the earlier guests. And while I was watching and listening, COVID has brought to attention to, on a global level, the IAQ and particulate and all this different stuff you're talking about, the way the virus is spread from humans and within it. And I want to give a big shout out to IBHS from the way that they handled the COVID outbreak. As soon as it became an issue, they instituted some very impressive cleaning, monitoring, and they, through the entire time, they sent everybody home for a short period, but there's been a skeleton crew still at work through the entire time for the last year and I don't know, I think just a couple months. But they instituted a cleaning procedure that was much like what you would find in a hospital. And there was somebody full-time cleaning. They introduced foot pulls and all kinds of testing. Everybody on campus was tested every other week. All this crazy stuff from that standpoint. And we're about to return to full force next Tuesday. And so I think that you've got your companies out there, the companies that are really concerned, that are kind of keyed into this stuff, that did phenomenal work at understanding how these things spread within an office space, and they have taken that to heart. And I think that component will continue to grow. And I'm curious to see how some other companies have handled it, because at the same side, the South Carolina governor recently said that, masks are optional, even for kids in schools now, based on what the parents can want to do. So they've completely removed that stuff. And
let's happen in New York too, for that matter.
Yeah.
If you're vaccinated, you don't
public, and they're like, like expressing how stupid they thought the whole thing was. Which is like mind blowing. So I just talked a long circle around to say that you've got, at the administrative level, you've got these companies that are very concerned with it and going these extraordinary extra lengths to do that. And then you've got the individuals, and they're at least conscious and aware of it as a problem, but they don't take it seriously.
Well,
Yeah.
unfortunately, it became a political issue. That's really what was the sad part about it. That if we didn't have this politics in the middle of that, it probably was a completely different approach from so many places, including, many of the governors or whatever. But it became a political response, and that it was macho to not wear a mask and do other crap. So those are just the things we'll look back on history and be like, wow, that was strange. But
History's not going to be kind.
it's,
No.
but wait, I want to know: can COVID get blown through my house? You guys test that, right?
Wait, no, SARS-CoV-2.
No. But
SARS-CoV-2, Joe.
Yeah, well, no, any COVID at all.
No.
Just,
COVID is the disease. SARS-CoV.
what?
CoV-2. Come on
Okay.
now.
Throw the COVID at the wall.
Come on now.
so yeah, it could, but the speeds, I mean, even at nominal speeds, it's pretty impressive. We're doing some studies right now on slabs on structure separation for wildfires. And I'm not even going to tell you the amount. I like to joke I spent $100,000 on lumber to burn, and then which involved a couple of 2x4s. But
I spent a couple $100,000 on cryptocurrency to burn.
yeah,
Watching the market crash last week.
up and down right now, isn't it?
It's horrifying. Anyway,
Stay on track,
Hopefully you
people.
bought on Sunday morning.
nope.
No. So we're doing some testing with that where we would light a small structure, a shed on fire, and then we test for how the heat can move in different wind patterns. And at 15 miles an hour, a 20 by 24 shed, the flames will move 20 feet beyond the shed, and the heat sensors at 20 feet in the air were the equivalent of a hot asphalt being poured. It was like, it's insane. And so I imagine if 15 miles an hour does that to flames, then maybe 10 miles an hour might push these SARS-2 CO2.
I'm picking on you.
Yeah.
I just feel that, for me personally, as a publisher and a professional, I have to try to, have as much technical accuracy as possible.
That's important.
It is. It makes me
Get the
feel better.
rappers, dude. Jesus, come on. It's not the day show,
Okay.
Yeah.
God,
Wow.
have a drink.
All right.
Oh man, I'm nothing. I got nothing.
You should
Oh,
nothing.
wow.
Nothing. Well, yeah, we should have probably had you.
an Airbnb getting ready to move into my house.
Oh, that's right, because you haven't. So for those out in the audience, so you were from Slidell, Louisiana,
Just
and
outside
you spent
New Orleans.
and you spent a lot of time, lot of your life there. You had a business there, and you got this opportunity with this new organization, and you uprooted. That's pretty big deal, right, dude?
Yeah, man, it's
Not easy. You have a son.
Yeah, he's not real happy right now with me. He's about to go in 8th grade.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and he thinks that I just ruined his entire world. And he said, what did he say? I'm trying to make an argument for why I should stay. Yeah. So I think he's going to be an attorney. I don't know.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I did that twice, and my kids later realized they were better off for having a different cultural experience. So
I think
And getting attorneys probably.
he may become
Did
an
your
attorney.
kids get attorneys? No.
Are you? Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. It's weird. It's weird being involved with a nonprofit
Mhm.
because budgets account for something, but the science is more important than the dollars. And
Mhm.
moving out of the commercial world into that world, where I was before, if it took an extra day, everybody's complaining because that's dollars and cents, right? Here, if you tell them that the science is going to be right, if I take another week, they're like, do it.
Well, I've been involved with a non-profitable entity for a long time now, but that's,
lack of profit is not non-for-profit.
I said non-profitable.
It's a different thing.
I have a non-profitable organization.
Yeah.
Wait. So I want to find out this more detail. So what do we know about resiliency now based upon some of the studies you've done? Like, are the things we're doing with roof trusses are tying things all the way down?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely. In fact, we have a program. You can check this all out at disastersafety.org. But we have a program now. It's called Fortified, and there's Fortified
Right.
Commercial, and Fortified Residential, and it's actually what they've done is it's interesting. They're driving some code modification, but their primary target are the insurance companies, right?
Yeah, right.
So they've partnered with these local state insurance commissioners and said, look, if you meet these certain qualifications, this certain standard, which is the fortified standard, then the insurance commissioners have agreed to promote a certain discount to owner's insurance, to the hazard insurance, based upon meeting those characteristics, those certifications.
So this is most. I lived in manufactured homes multiple times throughout my life. So what do we have for? I know that now they need to be tied down, but even tied down doesn't mean that thing's not going to blow apart. So have you guys also found something that's helping manufactured homes when they go through these? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's the continuous load path, right? So you want to have your roof attached all the way down to the foundation, is number one. Number two, another big thing we work on is hail. In fact, we just had a team down in Texas last two weeks ago, and they 3D scanned, and then subsequently they're in the process right now. It's my office mate is 3D printing a replica of the largest hailstone ever found in I believe it's Texas, but it may expand beyond into the United States. But it's like 6-point-something inches in diameter hailstone.
Wow.
And they actually went down and the person had found it and put it in the freezer. So we have all these meteorologists, brilliant people. And so a lot of the data that we collect, both from wildfires, hurricanes, and everything that we try to replicate and recreate in our lab, is all based upon data that's collected in the field. We chase the storm chasers. Mm-hmm. That's us. We've got a whole team of guys that they were driving all around Texas chasing the last week.
A la Twister, the movie, that kind
Absolutely.
of thing. Really? Wow.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we don't focus a whole lot on tornadoes. But as far as hail, hurricane, wildfires, we have boots on the ground, scientists collecting data, chasing them down, trying to determine, specifically with hail, we've actually determined that there's really two different kinds of hail. There's hard hail and soft hail, and then it's even made up of different layers, right, to create this density. The researchers at the facility have actually created machines that can replicate hail in the same exact density and mass that is found in the field. And then we actually will then shoot it. We have hail cannons, and we'll shoot it at shingles. We have a shingle farm, of course, so we're able to age all these different shingles for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and then bring them in and test them both for wildfire and hail impact, and put them back out there and determine, are they really meeting the standards that they're saying that they are. And I heard you mention UL. Up until now, the test for shingles has been a lead ball that's been dropped down from a certain height to impact the shingles,
which is not really representative of what happens.
No,
it's like Rafer was talking about too. Having just trying to extrapolate stuff from laboratory as opposed to more real world. You're in a lab, but you're really working to simulate real world conditions there, as opposed to having just totally fabricated stuff.
Exactly, and it's such an amazing thing, and I know we kind of gotten off of the subject of IAQ, and I hope. Well,
no, actually, your topic was on building smarter, learning to build smarter.
Yeah.
So
cool.
It's actually you're right on track.
We just packed up our single line hail machine and one of our hail cannons and sent it to UL. We're working on they're looking at adopting our methodology for the new standard for testing shingles for hail impacts.
Can I take that to my ex-wife's house just for like a weekend?
Dude. Well, you should be on the road, like,
dude. Yeah. It's like, I will rain hail on you.
You're too close. Back off.
So in the ceiling, okay, our wind tunnel, just to give you an idea of the size and magnitude of this place. Okay, it's 6 stories tall. It's like 150 by 150. The actual chamber, and then we have these like tunnels where the winds are like compressed and directed, and all this stuff. And in the ceiling on the catwalk, we have 72 hail cannons that are up there.
72?
72 of them. And they fire 1 inch, 1.5 inch, and 2 inch balls of hail, like it's ice, right? Right now, I've just been tasked as one of my projects to work with the prototype engineer to improve these hail cannons, because right now the maximum time that we're able to fire these cannons at approximately one piece of hail per second is only 2 minutes, and they want to get it to 5 minutes. 72 cannons firing in 1 second, one piece per second.
I could do the math. It's 60 times 72. That's a lot.
We got to make that much hail.
That's a lot of hail. Oh, so you pre-manufacture the hail's made and then it's fired out of this cannon. So it's a two-step process. The cannon doesn't make the hail. Okay, I get it.
But you don't make its own bullets, right?
It's like a big paint. It's a hail type paintball gun.
It's a big giant. Yeah, it's 72 up to 2-inch diameter paintballs shooting down 6 stories.
Ice paintballs.
Yeah. I can see so many people that are listening to this right now going,
freeze
how do
your
I do
paintballs and shoot them at somebody, and you're only firing like a 1/7 of an inch one. A
Yeah.
lot slower, probably a lot slower velocity too. Out of a,
People are going to be changing their ice cubes.
Between 50 and I think 50 and 77 feet per second, I think is what it is. Yeah, is currently what we're at. If you want to check it out, I put a post up on my Instagram of one of the guns we're testing, and it's got we test it with little wood balls that are roughly the same mass and density.
Oh, just to test the launching.
Yeah,
we'll share that if that's something that your organization's cool with putting up there. I'll get that from you. Put it up on the site.
For sure. And there's a lot of stuff you can go see on YouTube. Just look up IBHS, wind or fire or anything like that, and you can see some of our testing. You see our strong building last, and our dude. When you see a full 2,000 square foot house just blow off, it's crazy. 100. Wow. We were doing 120 mile an hour wind test last week, and it is so loud, so loud.
That's what people say when they survive a tornado. They're like, it felt like there was a train coming at us. So that's what.
Have you ever heard have you ever been near a tornado, Joe?
I have.
Yeah.
Because I have too. Actually, yeah. They're scary. And I was about a half mile away from one, and that was as close as I ever want to get to one. And it wasn't like I was chasing it; it came at me.
Came to you, huh?
It was like I was hiding in my freaking house, shaking like a whatever.
Wait! I want to get to fire before we run out of time. So,
let me tell you one more thing while we're on the
fire and ice. This show has everything.
You're gonna love this. So the facility was built 10 years ago, and it's out in the middle of nowhere, right? So like it's a very rural area. It's about 30 miles south of Charlotte. And when they were first building the facility, of course, they had some meetings and to kind of let people know what it is that they were doing. And there was a lot of concern in the community that we were going to somehow let the hurricane out.
Yeah, well, you remember Nikola Tesla was accused of doing that out in the West, right?
Right.
He kind of let the lightning out, apparently.
That was his fault. His tests, freed up. I got out there. Isn't that hilarious? That's so funny. Yeah. So Joe,
but are you?
What do you do to make sure you don't let the hurricane
how do you keep
out?
It in? Yeah. How do you keep it?
We have big nets.
Oh, got it. It is somebody like with a hat and a whip.
No, well, so truthfully, we have a discharge area. It's about 300 yards, and the facility is on 90 acres. So we have and there's berms, and then there's a huge discharge area with it's all a field, and then there's large pine trees, maybe about 300 or 400 yards beyond the discharge. But at 120 miles an hour, you better believe those trees are swaying.
Wow.
It's pretty cool.
You guys could have a hell of a Christmas party in that facility.
I'm looking forward to it. We're just opening up. Up until, very recently, it's been staff only, very exclusive. And in fact, if you weren't necessary to be on site, you didn't come. It was all the researchers and everything was Zoom meetings, and we were there because we had to actually build the stuff, right? And we had to turn the fans on and watch it all happen. But to talk about fire.
Wait! You have an amusement park that you just have not realized, and you could be charging admission. So
I realized.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Well, so when Sean first, mentioned to me that he had the opportunity to interview for this position, like that was a couple months back, right? Several months back, and I remember getting the call from you, and it was like, and as soon as you described it, I was like, this is you.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, you were like born to be to be
Oh,
there
I'm
as
so
the
envious.
facility
I'm
guy
so
there.
envious. Yeah,
No,
this is
because
awesome.
he's always been doing experiments in science. He's so analytical in the field. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just like,
Yeah.
you gotta love this.
It's been interesting to find my role here, because we're very collaborative, and my position is to build the structure. We've got a full team of carpenters. We've got a full metal shop, dude. We've got like 3 CNC machines. We have 3 3D printers. We have like
You can make almost anything prototype there, right?
it's
Look
insane.
at him.
Yeah,
Look at him.
right.
He's
So
so excited.
cool, man.
He's whispering.
I'm gonna have
It's
to.
so cool.
I know. I'm gonna send you a picture. My buddy Ross, he 3D printed a COVID germ.
Wow.
It's pretty cool.
Should launch it at 120 miles an hour at somebody.
Yeah. See, I did ask about this. See, you guys were onto that, right?
Yes. So brainstorming is the biggest part of our job, right?
Makes
so
sense.
I meet with all these like brilliant people, and they're this I think this is we could tie this back really interestingly to the IAQ world, right? Where you've got these really brilliant people and they're able to look at things and understand and conceptualize the use, the collection, the interpretation, and the use of data. And then you've got these people out there that are building houses, building buildings, right? Or you've got the facilities manager who's, his primary concern is the comfort of his occupants, right? But he's not concerned about so much does he care about the data collection? Does he care about all that stuff? Well, if nobody's complaining, he doesn't care, right? So you've got that disconnect, I think. And there was a question you guys, somebody said earlier, something about have we bridged that gap? Has COVID helped us get closer? And I don't think I think that the common person that's going to be, thrilled to death to take their mask off in Home Depot or whatever, has a new conceptual idea of it. But I think that the professionals, I think it has raised their awareness, at least as to like how important air movement within a building is, based on their experiences of what they've had to do with COVID. So I think that this is another step closer, at least on the professionals, from the researchers and the builders and the remodelers and the occupants and the facility managers. I think they've inched another inch closer.
Will it stick though? Will it stick? I mean, honestly, yes, we've inched closer, but I've been asking this question for a year now. Will it stick? And I think it's incumbent upon all of us in the industry to try to make sure that it does.
Yeah.
That we do something positive from all this negative.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that, to Joe, I think you mentioned, the VOCs coming off the materials. Do you think that fight has been waylaid a little bit because of the viral component of like in the airborne pathogens?
Nope, not at all. No, we're still building. Yeah, we're still building with as many VOCs as you can possibly put. Well, we're become a little more sensitive to them, or we're kind of aware of them. But unless you want to spend an extra, probably $30,000 or at least $10,000, you're still going to be dealing with these materials that have no clue or care about that. So yeah.
Well, what I mean is, like, have you seen a decline in the interest as the viral component has emerged, in the last year and a half? Have you seen a decline in the interest of the VOCs component of IAQ at all?
I've not actually. The only thing that is happening is that more people are trying to get a monitor, and they usually have some VOC component to them.
Yeah,
that's not that great. So
right, it's a lot of electrochem that are not. I mean, those things are short-lived. I mean, you need a photoionization detector, right? Of some.
Yeah.
That actually is a real one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I have one.
Or you can just extrapolate some data from, I don't know what some of the devices extrapolate from, but the outside weather from the National Weather Service or some nonsense. Some
Yeah.
of that.
VOCs are a part of a dice game anyway. So you're like, is it your cologne, or is it something that's inherent permanently in this building, or what? So they have
I'm
some
fragrance is
challenges.
free, so it's not my cologne.
Oh, to Bob.
It's a natural VOC.
Oh,
You don't use those
sugar,
crystals.
Oh,
You don't
sugar-free
use one of those
VOC.
crystals
Sure,
for
yeah.
your underarm.
you
do
know,
Yeah.
Well, I'll never forget my first foray into the VOC component. We had a daycare. It was a daycare that was being run as a subset of the person's house, right?
Mhm.
And there was these complaints. Kids were getting sick. They didn't know what was going on. They were worried that they were going to be losing clients because they just had this complaints. Ultimately, what I figured out is that there was a central return in the hallway of the house, and the gun cleaning station right across from the central. So the guy was cleaning his guns, and the air was getting sucked in and then distributed into this daycare making kids sick. So sometimes it's easy, right? Like
well, sometimes it is. I mean,
look.
but it's not always. And that's to our previous guests, Rafer and Louis' points. Having long-term data logging, trending data. To me, I've been doing that for, I've been a consultant now, 34 years. And we've been data logging since the beginning. Back before you had devices that were data loggers, we used to have little onset hobos and plug them in, with the analog ports and, and hook up different devices to the hobos to be able to data log our information before you could buy a device that did that. And we've been doing that since like back in the mid 90s.
Yeah. Mid 90s.
Oh, come on. Most people, early 90s, who was data logging?
So
look at Medosh. You always, were you data logging back then?
Not like that.
No.
Okay. Oh, were you doing it better?
Paper and pencil.
What's interesting? So I had to do a plug
degrees.
for Thursday's show. Thursday on the Healthy Indoors live show. Thursday from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern time. Joe, our former co-host, it hurts to say those words.
Your former.
He's our co-host here. Right. He's our co-host on this show now.
Yeah, well, I had some distractions, so I had to step aside.
But anyway, former co-host, he will be the guest / co-host on Thursday to talk about, among other things, what is IAQ. We're going to get into
No. What is the most common question we all get? You know what? I want
what
to
is
get
acceptable
my air
IQ? What's good IQ?
I want to get my air tested. People ask me, "Hey, I want to. Can you come out and test my air?
Can you test my air?" I get that question all the time.
So
it's like, how much money do you have?
Yeah,
that's my response.
What is indoor air quality?
And how much of it do you want to be parted from?
Right.
So
what's the canisters? The
Summa canisters.
Summa
canisters. Yeah.
Right.
Now, sure, we can come in and tell you the parts per billion of your air, of everything.
Yeah, I mean, we did that, with years ago. We did a study trying to find MVOCs using, I won't use the brand name, but there was a company that had a portable GC mass spec device, which, by the way, is freaking cool. You can do it in the field in real time. Thing cost $80,000 for this backpack, though. It's an expensive backpack.
How much did it cost to calibrate once you were on site?
I don't know, because it was them bringing it out. The manufacturer was actually based in our region, and we wanted to try to see if they could find MVOCs. And they could, of course, because they had great sensitivity. The problem is there was so much interference, like in a home with cleaning compounds and everything else. It's like, you couldn't really get discernible data on the run. And they calibrated a little, but then it's like, you think there's a market for this? And I go, probably not a lot of IAQ consultants are going to spend $80,000 for a backpack.
Yeah, they're probably not.
Probably. I mean,
it was cool,
though. They converted that into something on wheels, and they called it Instascope. So
it's totally different, though. It's not GC mass spec. That's laser count.
That's laser. Yeah, that's
and that's only $30,000 ish.
Right.
Well, that's the cost of an XRF.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. We have toys that cost that much. I had an X-ray version of that. It was like $33,000.
Yeah.
Right.
It can get expensive.
That. Yeah.
So you want to geek out about instrumentation? I'm going to send you a picture of our instrument lab tomorrow. We have 3 guys, and that's all they do is build, make.
You got like IAQ porn.
Dude, it's crazy. Yesterday. So we had a meeting not too long ago, a couple hours ago. And we were talking about, we have a single roof panel, and we want to put 56 different sensors on it, pressure sensors, heat sensors, all these different sensors, 56 of them, right, on a roof panel. The roof panel is 5 by 6, something like 4 by 6, with 56 different sensors on it and going into a data acquisition center that like is the size of a like Rosie the robot with like a full monitor, like so many plugs. I don't even know how many plugs. I could ask him. I'll take a picture of it tomorrow and send it to you. And you the
So you're making me sing the Jetsons song now that you said Rosie the robot. Yeah, I'm that old, dude. Come on now. I know.
But can you guys do a Sharknado?
Ooh, a Sharknado.
We would
with rubber sharks. Obviously, not real sharks. They're endangered now.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but I mean, you simulate.
Probably do. We can do some crazy things, man.
That could be a Christmas party thing. Is have the Sharknado.
We do have a pretty cool desktop fire, example of.
Oh, everybody wants a desktop on fire.
Well, we have, it's like a little house, and then it's got this flame burner. It's connected in here, and you put it on there, and then there's a little box, and it has an opening on. So it's like a vertical panel with a small opening on all 4 sides.
Mm-hmm.
And it just does it through convection. So it actually will create that. You put the flame, turn the flame on, and it's small. And the way that the air moves through it actually creates a fire tornado that it will come up out of.
So it's a small one that you can actually see.
Yeah, and we put it on desktops for like trade shows and stuff.
That seems really freaking safe.
Yeah, it's probably, maybe we don't. I don't know. Maybe it's more like when people come visit.
You bring them to like grade schools and
how do I order one of those? Yeah. Take that
cool.
camping. Yeah,
and you can move it in and out closer to the house. Because what we were talking about with fire, I know we're going over time a little bit here.
Yes, but I like talking about fire, so you can have another minute for fire.
It's after hours.
It's after hours. So
I'm almost out of beer though.
Okay, well I'll wrap this up quick then. So we're working right now on structure separation, right, which is the distance between structures and the positioning of structures. So we spent 2 weeks placing these various size sheds and then moving around and getting readings. And then they actually created a map of how air moves around these sheds at different wind speeds. Then we, yeah, it's insane.
After hours, yeah.
Excuse me. And then we lit them on fire, and we so we built these things called cribs. It's a standard size. The A6.
You were showing me you did send me a picture on my phone with that.
So one crib is 3 foot by 3 foot by 3 foot, made up of 2x2s.
Mm-hmm.
So it takes 230 3-foot long 2x2s to build one crib. We put 22 of them inside of a 20 by 20 or 24 by 12 shed. And then we slid in 500 milliliters of denatured alcohol and lit the alcohol with a propane torch and slid it in there and then watched it burn.
Okay, 2 questions. First of all, how do they feel about you at Home Depot? Probably good. And second question, were you a pyromaniac as a child?
You
don't have to answer that.
I was an early.
In all honesty, I want to confess, I used to blow shit up all the time. Honestly, like gasoline, squibs to fire, using the Estes model rockets and then turning them into things where you could, use sequence charges and stuff with, yeah.
I prefer the term early researcher.
Well, yeah, I would, I tested like a lot of aerosol cans to see how much they would explode under a gasoline fire and things like that.
Yeah, but Sean, you didn't explain. Were you just doing that for fun?
No. So, okay. So now what we're going to do is we were getting the maps of how the air moved around at different wind speeds, and then we burned it and we tested it at a couple of different wind speeds. And there are thermal sensors. We have these stands set up with thermal sensors all around there, wind speed sensors, and we did it against a dark background so we could see the way the flames moved and where the heat was. And then so we did that. We're actually replicating some work being done by NIST. Inside, NIST is doing it on one wall with a small mock-up of a shed, and then we're actually
I know the building, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I've
that
worked in
building
that
right
building.
there, we're doing it full size for them and replicating
Ah.
what they're doing at the smaller size. We're saying it's the same with our full size buildings. And then in the spring of 2022, we're going to bring in it's about a 1,600 square foot house, and we're going to place it at distances that we replicate at 45, and we'll rotate it. And then we'll see if we can make the flames jump the 20 feet from there. And then it's going to have a, cementous siding.
Mhm.
And we'll make the flames jump over to it and see if we can make them actually go up under the eaves and into the attics.
Nice.
Is what we're ultimately testing. So in the process
You're
of doing
testing to see if that construction design actually will stop that from happening. Got it. Man, that's cool.
Yeah, and there's some
That's
venting.
cool.
There's some new kind of vents that you can put in the eaves that may help to prevent that air move from there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Right.
So and in the process of doing that, we're going to burn another 25 sheds. Something
Which
like
means
guys
Home
need a-
Depot. Yeah,
You need a YouTube channel. You need a YouTube channel. People will be
they
like,
have one.
Yeah.
Right, you have one.
all of these, all this stuff's on there.
a lot of it is, but it hasn't
Wow.
been updated regularly. But
You need to have one. You need a show like this that's actually there talking about it, where like some really cool MC type hosts could be there and walk around, and go tell us about like
we have a lot of that footage.
kind of
We
thing.
do have a lot of that footage.
Like this burned house, something like that.
We actually have a TV studio on site.
Of course you do. Of course you do. Why would you not? have a
He's
TV
got
studio?
He's got
You're-
all the good toys.
You're non for profit. You have it all.
Well, I guess it was about 6 months ago. You may have seen what's his name, Al Roker, standing on a beach talking about umbrella safety.
I
No, I
did not
missed
see
it.
that.
No, right.
I don't really follow Roker that much
You don't
on
follow him,
Instagram
yeah.
or anything.
So he did a whole presentation on the safety of and what can happen with beach umbrellas and on the wind. We
Shit, they
created
can fold up and fly away.
it. He wasn't on the beach. He was in our wind tunnel.
Oh, look at
Wow.
you.
Wow. Oh man.
Did you put sand under his feet though?
Yeah. Yeah, we brought in sand. We created a beach, stuck the thing in there, and
Nice.
then turned on the fans.
Nice.
Wow.
Did you have
Yeah.
like heat lamps so you had to like put suntan on or suntan lotion? or
No,
anything?
he was in the shade.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. We still have half that pile of sand. I got to figure out what I'm gonna do with it.
But wait, so did you just finish the thing? Did you take an umbrella and like throw it into a wall, and so you could see what could happen if you're not cautious with?
I guess so. That was like right before I started.
Mm.
Oh,
The
okay.
sand's still there. They were telling me about it, but
Could have thrown it into Al Roker, maybe.
yeah, I'm not
Yeah,
sure
he's
exactly what became of it because I don't follow Al Roker either. But it was supposed to be.
I mean, nothing against Al Roker. I mean, he's cool,
Yeah.
Oh, wait, I can
You
tell you
know
what. Here's what you need to do the stand. You need to.
we're gonna have a hashtag, or we're gonna get tagged in a keyword. Like talking about dissing Al Roker.
No,
we'll get all
I think it's
all
awesome.
over
I
the
think it's
internet.
awesome. He was there.
I think he is too. And
What were you
I
gonna say, Joe?
No, yeah. So you should use the sand in the same way you're determining you have water intrusion or other things. Throw that sand in front of those fans and watch what happens to people who live in those types of environments. That is brutal.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Their skin gets all smooth.
You seem like the kind of guy, Joe, though, that went down the beach. You're one of those bullies, and you would kick sand in little guys like my face.
Why would you think that? Why do you think I'm a
I don't
jerk?
know. You seem like
Right. You're the one fit for that. You're like, yeah.
I'm like that, but I'm
I
short.
need to do that, but now I'm going to say
I'm like a
other
little
people
pit bull.
do
I mean, I never intimidated anybody at 5'4" stature.
I think Joe was the one that spent a long time building sandcastles.
No, not just sand castles, but I also build the shark. I build the turtles. I build multiple turtles that are all like they're going down to the beach. And
I would build like
yeah.
the silhouette of like a with boot. No, never mind.
octopuses are really easy. So
Hey, well,
Yeah.
I did.
Octopuses, yeah.
I did. Sorry.
Yeah.
yeah,
I just
no.
dug a
I
foot.
actually filtered. I filtered in real time. That was good.
I dig a hole with my feet and then that sat there.
Okay, right.
I
And look
built-
at you now. And look at you now.
Yeah, and look at you
man.
now. Now you have a chamber. You could do that. You could literally simulate being at the beach. Suddenly, when a hurricane comes in and fires 2-inch size hailstones at you and shreds you and your umbrella in real time.
And then shoot a bunch of burning embers at me.
Yeah, I guess of
Yeah.
course there'd be a fire from subsequent gas explosions in the
Yeah.
local properties.
Yeah. We have a system that's called a deluge system that will drop like I don't know, like 2,000 gallons of water on top of the structure instantly. If the button's pushed, just as emergency thing.
I do
But,
that at like
wow.
usually 2 in the morning, when I go to the bathroom. But
Yeah, that's crazy. It's
that's way cool. No, I mean, honest to God,
It's
this is
amazing.
like so cool. What you're doing. I'm
Yeah.
like so happy for you that you had got this opportunity, and I just as soon as you mentioned it, I knew you were a perfect fit for this. This is just like
Other
yeah,
people are going to want you on their shows. That's what we just brought you on. You're going to be on the circuit now, bro.
yeah,
Well,
but our shows
I-
are cooler. Our
one of the
shows are
things
cool.
that I think is the information that we're learning and the stuff that we're doing and all this. So I will tell you that it's a two-sided sword, right?
Mhm.
Like we're getting this information and we're helping to build better, but we're also
Mhm.
giving that information to your insurance companies, so they're
to
coming
charge
your
more for
house.
insurance.
Well, they're just understanding their risk better,
Sure,
right?
which is that's what it's all based on. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So they
Makes
can
sense.
come in and say, hey, if you move, if you change the bottom 2 feet of your siding to a non-combustible material, your potential for a wildfire, affecting the structure of your house goes down by X amount of percent.
Also, if you move to New York, it goes down quite a bit too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you live out in the woods,
Well, I mean, in fact, yeah, I live in the woods, but I also live in the city.
Yeah.
I'm fortunate enough to have 12 acres, like kind of adjoining the city.
Yeah.
So I have just a little woods. There's no wildfires. We've never had a wildfire. Just
Dude, you want to hear something totally nuts? Totally crazy.
I wouldn't expect anything less from you.
Like we
Okay.
haven't already.
So-
Go ahead.
oh, something totally nuts. Okay,
This is
let's
As
hear it.
opposed to burning 12 sheds with
Yeah.
5,000 pieces of lumber. right?
Yeah.
Last Monday, okay, we're in the middle of nowhere, right? Where we have to be because this. So they're like testing all these hazards. So obviously, all these brilliant people, they figured out where's the safest spot to build a facility that won't be affected in real life by the hazards, right?
Oh,
So
right. Because you don't want them on the outside of your building screwing up your
No.
stuff,
No, unless we let them out. But
which could happen. Clearly.
so
I
we're in
mean,
the
I know
middle of
you do everything to mitigate that likelihood.
Absolutely. We do. We have armed guards at the gate. But no, we
Wind response
have
probably,
90 acres and we're in we look like, if you look at our facility from Google Earth, like the 90 acres we have looks like a teeny little spot compared to like the millions of acres of wooded area all around us.
Mhm.
So last Monday, this guy and a guy and a girl were apparently they did something. They caught the attention of the police. There was a 40-mile chase, right, where they ditched the car. The woman who was driving was arrested, but while she was driving, the passenger was shooting at the police officers out the window. Boom, 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 boom. They crashed. This dude went back into the woods. They caught him yesterday.
It's that big an area.
For 7 days. There was over 200 law enforcement officers surrounding the woods, doing all this stuff. They had like helicopters flying over. They had video footage of him breaking into and stealing. He was barefoot when he went into the woods, but at some point during the week, he got into this other
In a week, he had time to probably fabricate his own footwear.
Dude, it was straight up Rambo. It was I'm telling you, we were driving by and the colonel was out there standing there dude was living in the woods. It was nuts. And there was FBI agents and helicopters and infrared. They almost caught him 3 or 4 times and he got away from the
That's
dogs.
just kept probably hiding in your facility.
Wow.
We were actually really freaked out about it. It was really, really concerning.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. We
Armed
had to
and
go
dangerous.
and everything, and nobody was allowed to be outside.
Armed and dangerous and hungry, probably.
Yeah. And with a weapon.
Yeah. Well,
With a weapon.
that's part of being armed. Usually you're armed with a weapon. Yeah.
I thought it was
Well, and they got arms. Right?
Yeah. I'm armed and now I'm armed with a weapon.
armed.
Oh my
so
God.
as if my job wasn't exciting enough.
Well, and that,
Wait, no. Just so you know, that was a pretty good story, but you know what? That's regular nightly news. So
Yeah.
what you told us earlier was way, way more exciting. Yeah. Oh, without a question. 56 guns putting hail down on top of
72.
72.
Wow.
One stone per second.
Yeah.
I remember the data.
It is cool. Go to YouTube and look up IBHS hailstorm. and you can see them like they made the hail, and it's awesome.
And
You know?
what you should do for the audio accompaniment with that is look up Hailstorm the band, because they're really good. Lizzie Hale can really sing.
Yeah,
So listen. No,
we could listen to both. We could
listen to Lizzie Hale while you watch the Hailstorm.
That'd be pretty cool. I think it's a good idea.
I'm prepared to do it.
I have to use 2 different browser windows.
Oh boy. Well, we're getting to this. Well, actually, we've gotten way past this point.
Yeah,
We started late, because in our defense, right? Live show, first time we're streaming this show. Our 2 first guests are over in Shanghai, China. So the fact that we actually could connect to Shanghai, China, and bring 2 people in from 2 different places in Shanghai and lock it up.
Yeah.
The fact that it took us 9 minutes late to get online, I'm really not feeling bad about it. And I apologize to the audience, but I'm still pretty happy with that. Do you feel okay with that, Joe? I feel okay with it.
Yeah.
It's tough when you're Mr. Worldwide.
Yeah. I think it's cool what you're doing, man. I mean, God, what I wouldn't give to be sitting at a, some sort of a conference, sitting in the bar afterwards, having a beer with you guys, and
we could come on again. In fact, I would like to see you as a regular occurrence to come on, on these shows and share alcohol with us.
No, like other shows have like these people to bring on like animals. Like, hey, look at this bird that I've got. No, you're gonna come on.
You can bring on and burn shit.
Yeah, yeah. Like, hey, guess what we did this week? We built this and blew it out the front of the. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean it's really awesome. I mean it's amazing. When you first described this place, I was like, wow, they can do that full scale. That's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know if you, I mean, I know it's about done, but I'm going to shoot you a text right now, real quick. I don't know if you're capable of putting this up.
Oh, you're asking an awful lot from me in real time.
But it's just a 13-second video. Let me see.
What is it? What is it? Depends on what it is.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean I can get it up. I don't think I can get it up online quick enough.
I don't think you can either. But anyway, this is a 24 by 12 shed, completely engulfed with 15-mile-an-hour wind, and you can see how the flames are moving.
Okay, we'll share. You're sharing with me. I got the link, so we'll show it on the site.
Yeah,
we can show it. This can be a post show note, because you're at. I mean, I'm a miracle worker, but only small miracles.
Well, if you send it to me, I could do that. But that's me. I could do it.
Well,
right
not
now.
texting. How are you going to pull it from a text into the switcher system?
Try me. Send it to me.
Send it to him. Okay, let's see it. He's going to do it, and he's got because he's got an iPhone probably too, and he's using a Mac.
No iPhone. No iPhone. No iPhone. Nope.
Okay. Let's. We're way over time now anyway, so I don't. We might as well.
Doesn't matter. Bring it on.
Let's just indulge this.
Okay.
All
so
right,
I sent you my phone number in case you don't have it.
So,
but I wasn't going to give it across the thing here. It's 777.
Just find him on Tinder.
Is my phone number on Tinder? What? Okay.
Okay, here it comes. 9. All right, there you go.
There's kind of awkward silence here. Let's see if Medosh can work his thing. So anyway, Sean, next time we have you on, or some other time we have you on, we got to talk indoor air quality. But I really wanted to speak about this now, because this is exactly what we wanted. But, I mean, you still have a wealth of knowledge and experience in the industry, and you being a construction guy makes you an interesting IAQ guy, because a lot of people in indoor air quality are not from the construction side, so they don't understand the other aspects of building, construction, and design, which is kind of critical.
Well, I tell you, with my Chinese drywall experience, right, where I was sitting with a scientist, brilliant guy, and he asked me to take 4 samples across this wall, and I told him, that's great, but you understand that I just sampled the same piece of drywall 4 times.
Yeah.
And he said, well, no, but you were every 4 feet. And I was like, yeah, but that's a 12-foot board.
It's the same piece of material.
Installed horizontally. He says, no, they're installed vertically. I said, nope. It's not.
Well, it depends. I mean, sometimes they are installed vertically.
Commercial.
Oh, commercially, that's gonna be horizontal.
Commercial typically, but this was residential. But anyway, the point is that you really have to. There's the data crunchers, the scientists, and the guys, the researchers. But if you don't have a fundamental understanding of how things are put together, it's can be a real challenge. Understanding, for instance, the window installation process, right?
Yeah, the flashings and just how you put them. Well, that's the whole thing. I mean, that's back in. So I had been an IAQ guy up until I started back in 86, 87. And but I was very siloed in the indoor air quality. And in the early 2000s, I started getting more into the building science aspects, and then did all the BPI certifications and started going down that route with blower doors and all that. And but I came in as an IAQ guy because it was interesting with the NYSERDA people here in New York. I was one of the first companies that was an indoor air quality company that was in their program, and they were like, wow, that's it's unique. Mold remediators and duct cleaners, and you do all that stuff. It's like, yeah, but it all goes together, because the reason we have those problems on the other side is because of these building related problems. And for years I never fixed those. I just went out and remediated symptoms. I never fixed the problem.
That's huge. That's huge.
It was a paradigm shift.
I really feel like we've made huge headway really strongly in the last 5 years, where you're seeing in the construction magazines, right? JLC and Fine Home Building and other magazines like that, where you're starting to see IAQ mentioned, discussed, building science mentioned and discussed, where before it was about, how do I keep my crew, showing up, or how do I keep my job on schedule, or how do I, cope a piece of 6-inch crown molding or whatever. Right. So like now within that's what was always in there before. Now there's also an IAQ component and building science component that's being added. And that's really a testament to the work that you and other consultants have done to fire that. We talked about this last year. Remember, Bob? I think
we did.
Joe, you might've been in this conversation as well, where we talked about how the IAQ industry has done such a good job of bringing attention that people should be paying attention to this problem.
Well, I mean, I don't know if we've done such a good job, but we've done a job.
That's fair.
We've done a job.
That's fair. And you're not going to ever not need an IAQ consultant, but people are more aware than they've ever been, I think, as to what the problems could be and what caused them.
Sure.
Joe,
are you ever going to get that video up?
It says that I couldn't receive this text. I have a thing on my computer that allows me to get text. That's
I honestly really don't want to chastise you, because I don't want you to have PC envy with your Mac.
Well, he sent it to you too. I don't see you.
He sent it to my freaking phone, dude. Okay.
Yeah, right.
Look, you can just go check.
We'll post it later, but I have it on an Android. I can actually watch the video here, but I honestly, this is a very sophisticated studio, and I don't have any way to make this telephone connect to the switcher.
Well, my Instagram is Shawn _ that's SHAWN _ Macomber, MACOMBER.
Okay.
And I've been posting stuff from the research center pretty regularly on there. So if you want to go on and check it out and subscribe and like.
You know what? I will. And yes, I will. We're approaching the 2-hour mark on a 90-minute show. So and usually it's Medosh that's saying, calling the end of the show. So this is a paradigm shift and somewhat of a role reversal, which I'm not really sure what that means, but
I don't know. If anybody's still watching now, they're like, yeah, you need.
Well, they will. At some point they'll go, God, this is like the longest freaking show ever. Well, this show never ends.
I'm thrilled with what you're doing, and I wish that I had more time to check them all out. Your daytime shows and everything.
You can watch them on your mobile device, and pretty soon you actually have an invite to the online global community, where all of this will be housed, and thoughtful commentary and conversations will take place, and people will meet from around the world.
I signed up to that.
It's going to be amazing.
Wait, we care.
Wait, there's more.
We care about your email. We're never going to give your stuff away.
That's the truth.
If you thought it was late night, you thought it was late night.
Oh my God!
You just saw the commercial that comes on at 2 a.m. Wait, I'm talking. You just saw the commercial that usually comes on around 2 to 3 a.m.
Yeah.
Yes, your information is safe with us. I'm like, what the heck?
Actually, okay, being the CEO and the founder of Healthy Indoors, right? Okay, I can actually say that it is. Okay, we actually literally do not sell or rent our list to anybody ever. And that's the honest to God truth. I've had ad sales people working for me over the years that insisted on trying to rent our lists out, to advertisers. And I'm like, no freaking way. And they're like, oh, that's what every trade publication does. I go, yeah, we don't.
Well, and I got to tell you,
that's the truth. That's it. That is my commitment. And so, sorry, Joe.
One of the things
I thought it was a funny commercial.
It is a funny. It was
pretty funny.
But I'm going to be Bob and be serious with you for a moment.
I wasn't that serious. I got close to the camera.
It came across kind of.
You dropped the tone of your voice a little bit too, and it was good.
I'm telling you, it was. Oh, and you can get all the rock and roll artists you ever wanted from the 60s and 70s if you call right now.
They legalized weed in New York.
Virginia is too.
Yeah. And pretty soon you're going to be, in Texas, there's a law going in effect that you're going to be able to just have a handgun with no license.
They're trying to do that in Louisiana as well.
Perfect. What could go wrong with that? Everybody just goes into stores and buy guns. Nice.
Yeah, it'll be good. But hope to see what they need to do is they need to do both of those at the same time.
So here's the thing. So I have to close with a quick anecdotal story from years ago when I was at a conference in Las Vegas. This was quite a long time ago, and we went in. I could have done that. That's bullshit. It's like, seriously, that's your solution, Mister.
That's 24 to 25 feet. How much further than the building at 10 miles an hour?
Okay, so I'm impressed with the video. I could have done this like 17 minutes ago. I mean, if that's what we're going to do.
But you didn't. I beat you to it.
It was hokey, dude. It was, all right. Well, anyway, so it was at a conference, and it was end of the day, went to this, I think it was a Rexall pharmacy, if that even exists anymore. And so this drugstore's got like slot machines in it. They sell alcohol, full liquor, and the back is a gun shop. And here it is. So I'm there at like 6:30 at night at the end of the conference, and Carol's with me. And I'm not even going to go there, Joe, because I know what you're going to say. But anyway, we're in the back, and she needed something. I don't know, some antihistamines or some crap. And I was buying some liquor, and in the back in the gun shop, it says no handguns sold after 6 p.m. for your safety. You can buy liquor, you can gamble, you can pick up your opioid drugs, and you can buy an AR-15 with a high capacity magazine.
Look, they're just there to solve problems.
I mean, it's one-stop shopping. I mean, it lowers the carbon footprint, I guess.
Provide solutions.
I guess it's
they're thinking of you
what they want. Give the people what they want.
Yeah, right.
Guns, liquor, and opioids.
Well, you're missing the crucial underlying element in television. Do not take away their television. Give them TV and a few other things, and we're all happy. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever read? This is probably a long conversation but have you ever read "Food of the Gods" by?
I haven't actually.
Oh, I highly recommend it. It talks
Does it have a lot of pictures?
There are some illustrations, but no pictures.
Well, that would help.
But it talks about television as it's the major problem with television is it's the first drug that's actually controlled by other humans, whereas all the other drugs are potentially tied into other spiritual powers or whatever. That's at least coming from inside of you, being affected by you. But television is a hallucination.
It's external. Yeah, it's not real.
Yeah. It's just a hallucination.
Are you saying this show isn't real?
It's real to me.
You're real to me too, Sean. We're gonna have to go because it's like now we've crossed the 2-hour mark.
Y'all, hey,
Medox has totally lost his co-host position. He's not even like keeping track of the clock anymore.
So it's after hours. So
it is after hours, but
I'm usually the last one at the bar.
Okay,
so here we are.
Yeah, he's the last one at the bar, and understand he's 2 hours later than me. He's on Mountain Time. Okay, so I'm at 9:15 in the evening having that dinner or lunch. So at some point, somebody's got to pull the freaking ripcord. Sean, this is great. I'm so happy you were able to
showing your age, tonight. Bob. So yeah, that was awesome, dude. You'll be back regularly. You'll be our regular.
Hey, I look pretty good for 62. Screw you.
You look great for 70.
Thanks so much.
That's what he said. He goes, "Damn, you look good for 70." Thanks, buddy.
Oh boy. Now it's definitely time to slowly push away from the bar.
It is, it's like I think I'm going to the bathroom, and then I'm just gonna go to my room.
Yeah,
TMI.
got to
All
be
right.
there for breakfast in the morning.
I didn't describe what I'm doing in the bathroom. Why is it TMI? That's what people say in bars.
You just say no. You're like, I'll be back.
You're at a bar and you go you go, yeah, I'll be back, and then you don't come back. You just diss.
I don't. That ain't me, man. I say goodbye to everybody.
Now McCumber and I close the freaking bar.
Yeah,
I partied with this guy.
We do. Yeah, it's been. That's what I said, man. This definitely feels like the kind of conversation you'd have at a conference, at the bar afterwards, and which is I think
this half was clearly.
Yeah.
I mean, the other part, the front half was great educational, but this was more of the bar.
Well, that's where all the good ideas come from.
Well, that's where a lot of the ideas come from. I've learned more after hours than in sessions.
Yeah.
So here we are. This is what, and we'll be doing. So for all of you watching the show, and it's stuck in this long, we'll do this again next month. We haven't announced the date yet, but it'll be up shortly in the next week. We'll announce the next episode. We've got some great ideas in store for upcoming shows. So those of you who, very few people are part of the community because we haven't opened it and released it yet, but I'll run a commercial at the end again. And you really should be on it because we're going to start streaming the community. You'll be able to actually do commentary and pose comments and questions after the show. It's kind of cool.
Hey, can I put in
those are idiots? Yeah, those guys are idiots.
Can you put in a request?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. Doesn't mean I'll honor it.
The musical video? Yeah.
October for your Halloween show.
Yeah.
Will you interview Steve Teams dressed as a tomato?
Oh, because he doesn't eat tomatoes. Oh my God, that's awful. And
I know. Hey,
so
Steve,
good. No, it's good.
watching.
If he's watching, he's gonna love it. He's gonna love it.
He's got. He does not eat tomatoes, but that would be a good.
Not.
Yeah.
Steve Teams is a tomato.
I feel like my nose looks like a tomato.
Well, you don't want Joe Medosh as an eggplant. We've already seen that in another organization.
Why do they think I'm a dick?
This is pretty much, kind of burned his bridge somewhere else. So we won't say where.
Poor eggplant. He's been ripped on.
He was. Oh my God. Yeah. Okay. Well, listen, thank you all so very much for watching our premiere episode of Healthy Indoors After Hours. It's great that you joined us. Sean McCumber, thanks so much for joining us. And my co-host, Joe Medosh, from his bar out somewhere in Colorado. And I'm Bob Krell, founder and publisher of Healthy Indoors Magazine. So until next time, stay cool. We'll see you. And make sure you bring plenty of drinks next time because
next time,
I know we're gonna have to restock the bar here in the studio because I'm out.
I'm out. That's your line. I'm out. I'm out.
Bye, guys.
Good night.